At the Dark Money Files, we're always looking for interesting things to share.
Things that bring aspects of the fight against financial crime into a different light.
Today we have something that made us think about the challenges of money laundering, what it's all about and why it's necessary.
And surely that's a good thing, Ray.
What, that money laundering should be challenging? Oh yes.
So why are we looking at it?
Well, because to catch a money launderer, Graham, you need to think like a money launderer.
Good point. Where do you want to start?
Take a look at this picture, Graham.
Whoa, I think that's what they call in the trade a money shot, Ray.
That's actually something else, I think, Graham. But perhaps we could say, in this case, the money's hot.
Oh, I see what you did there.
What currency can you see in the picture?
They look like dollars, Ray.
Correct. Any others?
I think there are some Mexican pesos right at the very front.
There are indeed. Let's leave them to one side at the moment. Looking at the dollars, what denomination do you think they are?
Do you know, I suspect they're probably hundreds.
Yes, they are. How much do you think there is in this picture, Graham?
Quite a lot, Ray.
Oh, well, yes. $207 million worth of quite a lot.
Blimey. Now, if that was your money, Ray, would you consider it enough to call yourself rich?
That rather depends, Graham.
On what?
Well, before I answer that question, let me ask you one. If that was your money, what would be your top few things to buy?
I suppose the usual sort of stuff. Well, I say usual. Usual if you've got $207 million to spend. So I'd buy, the house of my dreams. I'd buy a holiday home or maybe an island somewhere and a nice yacht to travel there on.
And how many of those things can you buy legally with cash these days?
Well, if I wanted to keep hold of them, none, Ray. Not unless they looked like they were purchased with clean, legitimate money.
So this needs to get into a bank and look like it was generated legally then?
Oh, yes.
Graham, tell me what a CTR or currency transaction report is.
Ray, it's an automatically generated report for cash transactions over $10,000 in the United States.
And that is a process replicated in some way or another across much of the world, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Which means if you wanted to pay this into a bank without arousing too much suspicion, you'd want to keep your paying in at or below, say, $10,000 a day.
It's probably not quite as easy as that, Ray.
Well, agreed, but bear with me for the moment because this is only a thought experiment.
OK.
Now, how many days a year are the banks open, roughly?
Roughly 250.
That sounds about right. So how long would it take to pay in your $207 million at the rate of $10,000 a day, assuming the banks are open 250 days a year?
That would my head hurts, Ray.
I'll help you out there, Graham. It's 83 years. 250 days at 10k per day equals $2.5 million a year. That's 80 years for 200 million and another 3 for the remaining 7 million.
I'm going to be honest with you here, Ray. I don't think I'm going to live for another 83 years.
I tend to agree with you, Graham. I know you're fit and well, but even I can't see you surviving until you're 149.
Thanks, Ray.
You're welcome. What other way could you use then?
Well, I could get a small army of people to pay amounts in for me.
Ah, yes, a process known as smurfing or structuring if you haven't got a sense of humour or knowledge of 1980s European cartoons.
Yes, it would need an awful lot of those people though, wouldn't it?
Yes, assuming you'd like to get the money into the bank within a year, you'd need 83 people to pay in $10,000 every day the banks are open.
And that means 83 people who know that you are up to no good.
And 83 people who might decide with the use of force that they'd rather have all of your money rather than just the small commission you're prepared to pay them.
And it's just possible that someone would notice 83 people coming to your house or wherever every day for a year.
Oh, they'd certainly notice it at my house, Graham.
Mine as well, Ray. So that's not a great idea then, is it?
No, and that's the point. When you've got a really big pile of cash to launder, it's actually quite difficult.
And we should make the point here that not all, or indeed a lot, of money laundering these days is via cash, but some of it is, and it's important to understand this stuff.
Exactly.
The thing I think we both agree is that trying to launder this through retail banking isn't very practical. So, how are we going to launder it then?
Through corporate or commercial accounts, Graham. They often generate a lot of cash and large overall amounts. It's much easier to hide dirty money that way.
So what sort of businesses are we specifically looking for then, Ray?
Any that generate large amounts of cash. I guess that would include restaurants, hotels, casinos, cab companies, money-changing businesses, things like that.
OK, and that would be what we know as collectively cash-intensive businesses.
Exactly.
And are we going to set these businesses up ourselves, Ray?
Well, we could, but it does bring additional problems, Graham.
Such as?
Banks are naturally more cautious when dealing with new businesses, so they look at them more carefully.
Now that is true. So what are we going to do then?
Before I answer that question, let me ask you one. If that was your money, and I promised to clean it up for you at a price, what price would you pay?
OK, you're promising to clean it up. That's guaranteed, is it?
Yes. Well, I'm guaranteeing to make it look like clean money. I can't actually turn it into legitimate funds, but I can make it look legitimate.
OK, well, if it came with that sort of guarantee, I'd probably be prepared to part up with half of it.
And that's the point. Imagine how much power it gives you as a money launderer if you've got that sort of money to spend.
Oh, I guess so.
Graham, I want to relate to you a story. Imagine you're the head of a business that has been in your family for the past 5 generations. You've just been through a tough few years and your business is precariously hovering close to bankruptcy.
Oh.
It could go down, it could go down on your watch. How would you respond if someone came to you and offered you a considerable sum of money in return for putting rather more through your books? For example, I'll put $10 million through your books over the next 12 months and you can keep $5 million of it. How many people would be tempted to say yes? In fact, how many people over the past decade or so following the credit crunch would have said yes? And the thing is, they would have done business in an honest way for maybe the past 50 or more years. So their relationship with their bank might well be impeccable. It doesn't mean that it always will be.
You know, when you put it like that, Ray, it makes me wonder if banks always pay attention to risk situations, even when they are not the most obvious.
Well, speaking as a criminal, Graham, let's hope not.
Oh, are we still doing that then?
We never stopped, Graham, and nor do the bad guys.